Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Thursday, December 28th, 2023. I hope you are having great holidays and that you're feeling invigorated for 2024. It is a big year that we all have to be on our game for, and we are blessed by the Holy Spirit and by God to get this job done of keeping America free, helping to free humanity, fighting the globalist cartel Babylon. We're going to do it. And so I'll jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So thanks for listening to that. We're going to get into a lot of great news here, or just interesting rabbit holes to kind of fill out what's going on around us. And I will start by saying thank you so much to people who have supported the channel in 2023. You have made it happen with your donations, your prayers, your monthly support, your pretty much your activism, and plus your news tips. To me, I always appreciate those. But your activism in your own lives. I feel that in the comments. I know that the people watching this channel are committed to being active for freeing humanity, for the sovereignty of the United States, and for fighting the evil forces of Cartel Babylon. And so thank you so much. I'll plug here for just real quick, because I think it's important and also imperative for our health in 2024. I wanted to let everybody know that anybody who supports the channel before the end of the month, before New Year's, or up to midnight and beyond Pacific time in New Year's, gets entered into the giveaway of c60evo.com/YAFTV C60 Evo capsules. 2 of these bottles of the capsules of C60 Evo, completely 100% pure C60. That is the ESS60 molecule that gives incredible support to your brain, to getting the crud that we're all going through with the biowarfare out of your mitochondria, doing continuous work, coming back again and again, staying in your body for 10 to 14 days, taking the crud out of your mitochondria. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. People who support the channel and get entered into the giveaway for 2 bottles. If you support the channel, you get a separate code for 15% off and a separate link as well. I really love the MCT oil as well. This is the coconut oil, great for workouts. Athletes swear by it, buying it by the caseloads. And it's also great for the big C, for everything to do with inflammation and fighting mitochondrial diseases of all kinds. That is, in my opinion, from everything that I have read, from all of the studies put out. And so thank you for listening to that plug. c60evo.com/YAFTV. Okay, we're going to jump in here. So what we have today on the December 28th is, of course, we're in the 12 days of Christmas still. And of course, that's in more the Latin Catholic tradition. But today is Childermas, or Childermas, in the 12 days of Christmas, which is really the feast of the innocents, okay, of the Holy Innocents. And the Feast of the Holy Innocents has to do with when Jesus was born, and there was the going after King Herod. Once the Magi came to King Herod and said, hey, we hear there's a new king of the Jews. Well, there was, of course, the slaughter of the children, okay, of Bethlehem, that were the firstborn sons, right? And we don't know how many were killed then, but this is the day to remember them, Childermas. And it's important because we're dealing with the United States now being a massive human trafficking and child trafficking, especially recently, massive numbers of children being trafficked through the border. In the largest child trafficking industry that has gone on in the history of the world that we know of. There's something like 500,000 migrants coming across this month in December across our southern borders. That's just what they've recorded. That's 500,000. You heard me correctly. This replacement migration, or this invasion, what they're calling, what the UN calls them, and the World Economic Forum calls these people that they are organized to bring up. We have Blinken and Mayorkas going to visit with Almodovar in Mexico today and yesterday, saying that, we need asylum for these migrants. You need to allow them to stay in Mexico as well, and we'll allow their keeping coming. It's nothing like we've ever seen, but the majority of the problem here is women and children. The big problem, of course, for our country is the military-age males that are coming from very, very disturbing areas of the world, the Middle East, jihadist areas, the Chinese, all of it. And so we want to very much remember the first children persecuted after the birth of Christ were those slaughtered by Herod, right? And so we remember Childermas today. We remember the Feast of the Holy Innocents. And that's where we start out from today, already at 6 minutes. It takes a while to talk about these things, but in that light, we're going to talk about multiple things today. We're going to talk about what's going on with multiple things. The Cybersecurity Futures document that just came out, talking about the massive global censorship and digital ID they plan to roll out. We're going to talk about how recent release, a trade of prisoners with Venezuela ended up with one of the biggest traffickers, money launderers from Venezuela being released from the United States, redeployed to Venezuela in the Biden crime industry market, globalist controlled puppet regime that we're living under to put Alec Saab back into Venezuela, very much connected with Lebanese. He's from Lebanese descent. We'll get into all of this with Hezbollah, all of it. We're going to get into multiple things here, but I want to talk about first, before we move forward, about what happened in Nigeria over Christmas, because what's going on in Africa and what happens every Christmas, often in Nigeria, is the slaughter of Christians. And we had this again this Christmas, where we had over 160 Christians massacred by Muslims in Nigeria, in what they call the Northern Central Plateau. This has to do with the villages of Bokos through Barkin Ladi, areas of Cameroon. And there was over 20 villages attacked by what they call the Fulani Jihadists. And the Fulani Jihadists are very much protected and used by the Nigerian government. And the Nigerian security forces use them. They're wholly Muslim, and they don't stop these massacres from happening. And in fact, they use them as a way of abducting tens of hundreds of Christians. And basically, there was massive massacres there of Christians over Christmas. We pray for them. We pray for their families. Supposedly millions in damages, 221 plus houses burned down to the ground, and 160 people killed, 300 plus injured. These Christians, old Christians, okay, in Nigeria. And there's been over 5,000 Christians killed in Africa by Muslims in 2023, and this has been going on every year since Biden got in office, basically. Since 2020, 5,000 Christians per year killed in African countries by these forces, and we need to pray for them. And also, they were killed with machetes, very brutal, very disgusting. And when we look at what they're calling the invasion forces, the Muslim Caliphate pushing into this country now after they've gone through Europe. What also happened through the Christmas week in France was in Paris, massive fires, massive burnings, riots, and videos put out by jihadists saying, "We have captured Paris, we have captured your land, and we're going to expand throughout France and throughout Europe." And of course, this is supported hugely by the globalists wanting to disrupt and destroy Western civilization. So I wanted to put out prayers, okay, for the families and, of course, the people killed in those massacres in Nigeria over Christmas. And, we're looking at in Bethlehem now, if we look at, the slaughter by Herod of those children, the first to be persecuted after the birth of Christ, we now have, Bethlehem was 90% Christian in the 1990s, and now it is about 95% Muslim. And of course, all the horrors going on over there. And so moving on from there, I want to go on to just mention from over the holidays, there was something that came out in the news in the last few days after Christmas. We've had this, it's been known since like 2015. They started talking about this thing called holiday heart syndrome. But this year they went really hard on it with tons of MSM articles and reports on holiday heart syndrome, okay, where suddenly people have heart attacks over Christmas and over the holidays. They say, oh, you drank too much alcohol, you ate too much salt in your food, and so now you are experiencing heart attacks and strokes. It's just coming out of nowhere. We don't know what goes on. This year, huge amounts of that coming forward. And I don't know about you, but people I know had a lot of heart issues over the holidays, arrhythmias, pounding hearts, this kind of thing where, you can't breathe, all of it, the same old biowarfare stuff, but very much through the 5G, through the, through the EMF systems, through the devices, through the TVs, all of it, this everything connected to Wi-Fi, pounding out something for entertainment purposes only, that is causing people to be very ill over the holidays. Let me know in the comments if you also notice this. I've had many reports of it, and I think it's important to note that just like in Nigeria, with the overt killings of the machetes, we have, in the USA, the attack on the people over Christmas with the EMF weapons. And we know that China is developing massive sleep weapons, heart attack weapons, thought control weapons, all of that. That's all happening, but our own government is set up against us, and I will get more into that in this video. But I wanted to mention this holiday heart syndrome propaganda push that they put just as the died suddenly stuff. And Ed Dowd has come out today again to say that the last quarter numbers of the died suddenly is up to like 32% of millennials having excess death mortality with no explained reason for death, 32% up, okay, in the last quarter. It keeps growing and growing from people who either had the shots or exposed to the people who had the shots, because we know this crap is contagious. So we'll move on to there. From there, I want to get into a couple things here. I think I'm going to start with discussing something because I want us to have a little bit of hope about, not a little, a lot. I believe we are really capable in 2024. We're 312 days to the election, right? And there are over 40 elections in multiple countries across the world where huge things are going on to do with major populists coming to the center here with having huge elections to do with populists that want freedom and sovereignty for their countries. We saw Milei down in Argentina. He ran on a MAGA platform, Make Argentina Great Again. He just fired in the last couple of days 5,000 of the internal bureaucracy government in Argentina. This is exciting, right? But I want to talk about how in 2024, we need to get out there, whether it's precinctstrategy.com. We still need like 2,000 plus committee members right now, okay, to get involved and to actualize change and have a huge effect. And there was one thing that's been happening for the last 6 months, but I haven't really covered it. And I'm going to cover it here before I get into the other meat of the news here. And this has to do with, in Michigan, okay, this is to provide hope, how you can get active on a local level and make huge change happen. And this was in Green Charter Township, northern Michigan, where there was a CCP company coming in there, where the state's Congress, the state's Senate of Michigan, of course, the Democrats were trying to push using all this taxpayer money to fund a CCP EV plant coming into northern Michigan, completely CCP connected. And so I want to cover that now, because what happened was that you had the town come and recall the entire government after they put in, after they granted 175 million taxpayer dollars funds from Michigan, plus, of course, federal funds coming in, but $175 million of Michigan taxpayer money to go into this EV components plant called Gotion Corporation. Okay, and what they did, this was going to come right near their town and right next to a very important military base, which I'm sure the CCP was checking out when their spy balloon was flying over the Midwest and flying over Michigan, as we saw that the Biden crime syndicate no oath administration was allowing to come and surveil our entire country. Well, one of the biggest important important bases in our country to do with training our National Guard. The number one National Guard training facility is in Michigan, outside of Big Rapids, where this plant was adjacent to, okay, where the EV plant owned by the CCP was going to go in. And this is Camp Grayling, okay, and again, the number one National Guard training facility. So what happened was the local people, plus the local Senate and representatives of this area of northern Michigan, came and said, you know what, we're not cool with the commies coming in, with the CCP coming in, and putting this plant of EV components production right next to our base or anywhere in our state. And so what they did, and this base was to be worth at least $2.34 billion, but up to $3.2 billion. And so what happened was they had a recall election in this area, okay, out of Green Charter Township, and the people had an effective recall, and they recalled every single person out their town council. This is a rural area and this is why you can get effective in your rural area, in your small town, and stop what's going on. We say, what can I do? You can do this. Recall your local governments for participating with globalist agendas and CCP agendas. And so what they did was they recalled every single part of their town council, the county clerk, all of it, and they changed the locks on their city hall. They had them ousted. They held the records that were there. They held a new election, and now the locals are running the council, and the clerk office is now occupied by a guy named Corey Rebow, no political experience, but can do the job. And that's how it works, okay? The votes of the recall election were run by the neighboring county clerk, all hand counted, all hand ballots, and they changed the local government, and they're stopping Gotion Incorporated from taking over, okay, their town and getting close to their base, their army base, the National Guard #1 training base in the country. And so let's get more into Gotion for a second, and then I'll move on. But we need to see, so now Gotion Incorporated, Gotion Corporation, which is a U.S. subsidiary of Gotion High Tech, which their full name is Gotion High Tech Power Energy Company out of Hi-Fi, China. They had bought the land and going to put in this plant, getting our taxpayer dollars to do it. Okay, and they are completely CCP connected. And so we can do like Sarah Sanders did in Arkansas, where she kicked out Syngenta and now is dealing with the land rights to be revoked. And that's the next step, getting the land rights revoked from China in all of our small communities, especially rural communities near these military bases where they're going full bore state by state, kicking down doors of local town councils to offer perks, offer money in order to in order to take over. Okay, and so let's get into, we have Michigan Senator Lana Theus, who voted no. There was on this vote in the Senate it was 10-9 to give $175 million to the Chinese corporation. But let's find out who these people are. This Chinese corporation, the Gotion High Tech Power Energy Company out of Hi-Fi, China. Well, we had Chen Li, who was the prior CEO, and he was a CCP Central Committee person, and basically, as a member of the CCP Central Committee, this is the arm of the CCP's United Front, okay, where that is the system for advancing communist control over foreign nations, the CCP control specifically. And his father is a chairman and general manager of Gotion High Tech and holds a leadership position in the CCP in the Central Council. And so basically when you're in the CCP Central Committee, like the CEO out of Gotion Global, okay, what Senator Theus put out is she found out that there's almost 1,000 members in the control of Gotion USA that are members of the CCP, and that the CEO was Chen Li. The new one is also a CCP member, and his father being the chairman of the general manager of Gotion High Tech and central in CCP leadership. So when you have a CCP Central Committee involved in your company, what it means is you have to abide by all the CCP's rules for foreign national companies, which has to do with espionage, intellectual property theft, all of it. The FBI says that's their number one priority is espionage and intellectual property theft, but no, now it's, they're refocusing on what now in the mainstream news they're calling everybody who is a populist or a non-Democrat toe-the-liner they're now calling everybody Confederates. They're calling us Confederates now. That's the new term, the new verbiage. We're now Confederate supporters because they're trying to create this civil war in this country. And so they're now saying everybody who supports Trump, who supports sovereignty of the United States, we're Confederates, when literally it's the opposite. Supporting the sovereignty of the United States is the actual real deal. And so going on a little bit more about Gotion's CCP connections, this plant, this EV components plant that they fought and shot down, and what we have the power to do in all of our communities. Gotion brought these workers on a work retreat in 2021 that they all wore Red Army uniforms and had to do the party pledge to the CCP, where part of the pledge is to say that I fight for communism to the end of my life. I will defend it with my life, and I support all bylaws and every mandate made by the CCP. And they made an employee trip to China's Revolutionary Memorial Hall in 2021, and where they did the pledge. And then in August that same year, the next month, this is Gotion, the EV plant in Michigan. They made a trip to Dobby Mountain to commemorate the CCP's Long March in 1935 that put Mao Zedong in power. So, FARA also puts out that the ERG report of Gotion Incorporated, Gotion International, Gotion Global is that they filed as Chinese a foreign principal. So this is the power of local action and local governments. And I know I'm at 24 minutes, but I needed to tell you that because we have the power to stop these things as local action. Okay, 2024, local action. All right, get involved. And so now I'm going to move into the second part of my video here to do with a report that came out recently from the World Economic Forum, also in connection with UC Berkeley Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity. And this is the Cybersecurity Futures 2030 New Foundations, it's called. And this is the World Economic Forum's Center for Cybersecurity, mainly intention to make sure that all of the nations conform to regulations on basically internet usage and control of AI, that open AI doesn't get used by people seeking truth and people seeking to share knowledge and information and health information, election information, ways that we can connect with each other in really great ways to do with AI. But also the main push here is to control wrong speak online. And this just came out in the last couple of weeks. And before I jump into it, I just want to put out that it's come out of Oregon already that this Cybersecurity Futures 2030 has already been going on in Oregon, where the Secretary of State was caught out lying that it wasn't already in practice. This, what they're calling the election protection solution, where they're literally already spying and surveilling on everybody online in Oregon, that internet users are being tiered from mild to serious threats, okay? And they're checking everybody's social media and everything online in Oregon. She was caught out, the Secretary of State. These Secretary of States, they're all Soros funded. They are the, whether it's, all of them. You can look from Arizona to Georgia, Raffensperger in Georgia, across the board. These Secretary of State seem to be very, very intricately controlled by the globalists. And so what's going on in Oregon is that it's partnered with Oregon State University and with NORAD, okay, the Gates Foundation. And this is, of course, to implement what will be the digital ID. And what they're doing is surveilling everybody and calling it the election protection solution, where they are basically saying that they're not saying, they're trying to hide it, but what's come out recently is that they are tiering people as mild to serious threats on what they say online, and that serious threats will be referred to the DOJ and DHS to be dealt with, right? Because as the FBI has said, the Patriots, any American that supports that we should have America, okay, be sovereign, is a threat, okay, and that is the new tyranny of the Trotskyists, the neo-Trotskyist cabal, who always is just used by the biggest, largest, trillionaires, okay, in the global spider web of taking over. Now they've gone for the whole globe, okay, it is Cartel Babylon Global. And so that's what's going on there. But let's get into the report. The 2023 December, just a couple of weeks ago, released. The report, as I said, came out of the World Economic Forum Center for Cybersecurity, along with UC Berkeley Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity, CLTC. And they basically did 4 global scenario exercises, very much like the World Economic Forum's Cyber Polygon, basically playing out what could different scenarios that we, the people, might do in order to secure our freedoms. And one guy involved in this, and I'll get more into these people involved in subsequent videos, but Akshay Joshi is the head of industry and partnerships at the Center for Cybersecurity at the World Economic Forum. And this is all about public-private partnerships, how to go transnational to put globalist World Economic Forum plants across the globe into different governments to execute censorship, control of the internet, to what they say to install trust and unity. Anybody going against trust and unity, right, of the tyrannical totalitarians must be stopped, and especially the use of AI to combat this. And, this is not new news to people watching this channel. And so their number one primary concern, as put out in this report that just came out, is the online spread of mis, or malinformation, okay? And they said basically the use of AI to combat disinformation before it further degrades trust and unity. And they will be using their globalist, their World Economic Forum private-public partnerships to make this happen through research institutes and all the fake government think tanks, and all of this to pretty much not really be legislated, but to be put in through executive orders like Biden has done in recent months with his cybersecurity executive orders. And so these are their intent. And this is very crucial. Their intent is to pivot from confidentiality and availability of information, okay, that, our individual protection of our privacy, plus the availability of information. Two, they're pivoting from that. They're pivoting away from caring about us, obviously, to regulations, implementation, okay, laws handed down globally that will be countering disinformation campaigns. And it's all about disinformation, this thing. And they're saying in the next 5 years, we have to absolutely clamp down on freedom on the internet. And this, is, of course, gets to the digital ID, which they're planning with the economic collapse. And so incentives to be given to countries participating, okay, meaning they're going to give money to the countries participating, and they will insist on a security by design structures, meaning everybody's going to have to adopt the same AI run programmed manipulation of the information that comes up online, tagging it, putting it into a criminal system to target people. We've seen it, in the UK. We see it in Europe. People arrested for saying, transgenders can't, a woman isn't a man, they get arrested, right? This kind of thing. But making sure it goes on globally, and they specifically want to target developing countries, and that will be key. And the other key is that the World Economic Forum has to install their operatives in these countries through these private-public partnerships to make these things happen. They cite the lack of global leadership in targeted nations. Okay, there isn't a leadership happening there. And so they want global expert regulatory bodies installed, the World Economic Forum operatives, global expert regulatory bodies installed in these countries in order to make this happen. And the objective, one of the primary objectives they say here, is that the two ends of the problem here are China, okay, where China uses its disinformation campaign to totally, create their CCP army, to create a mind-controlled masses so they can completely control 1.4 billion people. They say that's one end of the spectrum, versus the United States that has as a supposedly totally free and open internet information platform, which we know is absolutely not true after everything we've all gone through in the last few years and still going through right now today. But those are the two ends of the spectrum, and they say those things need to be maintained, okay, and that they don't have to, they're saying that they need to create a system that's going to control both of those opposite ends, all right, bring them into a global, meaning the U.S. just conforms to a China-style social credit score, the digital ID, the system that is China is really what they're saying, that they plan for everybody. But they're saying regardless of deteriorating U.S.-China relations in the next 5 years, meaning they're expecting U.S. to go to war with China in the next 5 years, and regardless of that, okay, this must be planned for, and the internet must be controlled in planning for that outcome. And the takeaways really from this document, I'm going to link the PDF below so you can check it out for yourself, because I really want you to, is that they really want people to come up for the money, right? It's the money. And they want to be able to pay off the countries to do what they want to do. In order to qualify for that money, they'll need, the nations will have, and the nations and corporations, think of, Google, all of the social media corporations, all of that will have to conform to having skilled, affordable workers, meaning international workers, to be installed in every country that don't have a national agenda, don't have a commitment or affiliation with countries, to be installed in all of these countries and these corporations to make sure that this global blanket goes over all the nations. They must all have regulations in place that support global censorship. They'll need to have a customer base that agrees to censorship. Okay, that's key. That they'll have to make sure in these participating countries that your customer base, meaning your citizens, okay, will have to acquiesce to this censorship. And again, that means adopt the digital ID system, the social credit score system, the online digital ID. Nikki Haley has said very clearly that that's what she wants, that she wants the digital ID system to come forth. That is her agenda. And so also that within this, of course, that all of these nations must adopt, embrace sustainability and sustainable energy, meaning they must adopt the de-energizing of their nations, agree to shut down the fuels that work, shut down the oil, shut down the gas, and adopt the things that don't work, the CCP solar panels, the CCP EV plants, the CCP wind farms that don't work and have no energy, basically, which is so counterproductive because you want to have an internet, you want to have a structure, infrastructure of a digital system without energy. But it just means basically that only the energy that runs specific things will be allowed, which is this mass control system, this Skynet, is the only thing that will be allowed to be massively energized by coal and gas and oil, will only be the systems that they can use to control us, right? And so just to finish up, they have to also promote cybersecurity hygiene. Again, that's now we have digital hygiene. Okay, remember the hygiene, the eugenics, the pandemic hygiene. We must have health hygiene. We must have race hygiene. We must have, of course, cyber hygiene, right? Okay, the purity of the races for the globalists, transhumanists, okay? You can never be hygienic enough for the transhumanists, right? Your body is not okay. You are dirty. You are a just lowly human, and they're going to purify you with their cybersecurity hygiene. And of course, one of the last references that they talk about is that they're going to stop open use of AI. And there's been great talk by Mike Adams of naturalnews.com, where he's building a whole open sourced natural health AI, where there'll be an AI produced body of work that can be, you don't even have to be online. It will be literally on a thumb drive. He's creating it now, where he's putting in all of the natural health information bit by bit, and it's going to grow and grow in 2024, where he's creating a huge health database so humanity can survive with natural health applications, natural health knowledge. And they're saying, oh, no, we cannot have that. We have to have what they call trust and unity of their AI, which is just to create totalitarian, complete regulation of our lives, complete and utter surveillance and shut down of all information, especially health information, with the pandemic treaty and all the crap they're trying to push on us, the shots, no hospitals anymore. They're shutting down ERs everywhere. They're shutting down emergency rooms, which is the only thing we really need from the hospitals. They're shutting down the emergency rooms. But no, don't worry, those huge cancer wards are still open. The experimentation hospitals, the research hospitals, you can go there. But the ERs, they're shutting down. You have to go telehealth if you break your arm or if you have some mega infection that just broke out, right? But no, they must stop the open source development of AI so we can have trust in unity, right, in the globalist system. And of course, the nations involved in this will have to fund and develop these censorship systems. And that is what I'll say about that. You can download the PDF. I'll link it below if you want to read the whole thing. It's very scary. It is disturbing hugely. So we're going to take care of ourselves in 2024. That's for sure. And so the last thing I'm going to end up with here, I've been on this. I talked about in my last video about Donald Tusk and his son, who did the laundering of a Ponzi scheme and the hundreds of millions. Donald Tusk being the again Prime Minister of Poland, and now just recently in the last few days, Donald Tusk came out and said that he's what is he doing? He said that he's now going to open the migration doors in Poland, and they've been fighting it massively for years. Open the migration doors. He's already hinted at openly saying that war with Russia could be on the table, just like Olaf Scholz hinting at a draft there. And anyway, Donald Tusk, okay, the former commissioner of the EU, right? He's now, the one, as I talked about, his son in the Ponzi scheme, with the hundreds of millions of dollars went missing, and 19,000 people had all their money stolen. The sons, right? It's the Hunter Biden, it's the Biden crime family, the Hunter Bidens, the children, the families. Well, we have another one, and this had to do with what I mentioned earlier, to do with Alec Saab out of Venezuela, who was released last week on this supposed it was like a prisoner swap, okay, and it just kind of went unnoticed. It was about 10 days ago now, and I think this is very interesting to check out, because we have another sons issue with the sons of Maduro, the stepsons of Maduro. If I can just find the right page here, sorry, it's taking me a second. But the sons of Maduro are the Hunter Bidens of Venezuela, and we all know how this goes. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the page. I'm almost there. So we have the Maduro sons. And Maduro, of course, we have Chavez, the first person with Venezuela, with the Smartmatic machines at the turn of into the 21st century, the control of the elections through Smartmatic, putting in the communist takeover of Venezuela. And his successor, after a couple presidents there, we get Maduro. And Maduro's stepsons have been the Hunter Bidens of Venezuela. And Alec Saab has been a huge money laundering person. He was the one person traded for 10 supposed U.S. Prisoners in Venezuela. And by the way, Venezuelans are like going back to Venezuela. Like, we have like tens of thousands of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans coming into the U.S. through this migration invasion. And the UN calls them agents of change, which of course they are, to change the U.S. into one of the regions of the 10 regions of the New World Order. But let's get into Alec Saab here for the end of the video. Alec Saab, so he's the one who was traded. Just think of Victor Bout, right? Victor Bout. He was traded, right, for the WNBA player, a few months ago. And then he ends up heading to, in Russia. And then he's in Ukraine. He's with Alex Vindman at Trident. They're moving the arms through where he's the head. He's called the master, what was he called? The master of war, or the number one war criminal, whatever, the most dangerous man in the world, Victor Bout, because he was the hugest arms trafficker in the world. and the U.S. traded him back to Russia. Really, it kind of he went with the Wagner Group, totally in line with Alexei Vindman, out of Little Odessa, out of Brooklyn, all the Trotskyites, right, that are controlling, again, the economy of sin, the cartel Babylon out of Ukraine, and set up the Trident Company there to basically deal with all this trafficking of humans and organs and weapons in Ukraine, and all the money laundering and the payouts. And that's why they keep wanting the more money. They're shifting now towards this Build Back Babylon Better in Ukraine, but that has been the scenario. But Alec Saab is the latest one. And so he's released from the U.S., and I'll just get into a little bit his deal. So his full name is Alex Nain Saab Moran. He is from, his family is from Lebanon. And we have a huge thing about the Hezbollah threat in the U.S. to do with the Lebanese, and hugely connected through Venezuela, hugely backed by China. And so this is huge that they let him out. He's originally he was born in Colombia, right? But then has dealt massively through Venezuela, through huge, massive money trafficking, money laundering with the Maduro crime family. And so his father was really rich out of Lebanon, in Colombia, with textiles. And of course, he grew up very elite, going to the most elite schools, etc. He's 56 years old. He's mentioned in the Panama Papers, mentioned in the Pandora Papers, the FinCEN files, all of it, just released by our U.S. government back to Venezuela, right? And so, okay, what do we have about him? Well, the first thing came about him had to do with what's called the housing mission in Venezuela, where there were materials. They were a materials supplier where Saab, his company, very much connected. Over and over, we hear the name Shaytex company, and I'm going to get into that in further videos. But I'm not going to get into that here. But his company was involved with Venezuela's what's called their housing mission project, and this is supposedly building low-income housing for the starving Venezuelans that they stole all their money and land and companies and starved them out, and then they were going to supposedly build them housing. This is 2012 to 13. He was the material supplier for this housing mission government operation, and he was given $159 million, his company, and only $3 million worth of building materials were delivered. And so there was $156 million laundered, okay? There's that. And then it continues on where we have, where he partnered with the Maduro regime again to basically deliver something like he was supposed to buy $200 million worth of food stuffs, basically supply chain to Venezuela during the whole beginning of the starvation period. And he sold, the Maduro government bought this food stuff for $200 million, right? And they then, okay, excuse me. So they spent $200 million on this food and then resold it for 112% profit. 112% profit. So basically what it means was that the food wasn't worth that much money at all whatsoever. They spent $200 million on it. They resold it to the people at the massive hyperinflation prices, okay? And kept all the money. Okay, and it's disgusting. It's so disgusting. And we have to wonder in this country if that same thing is happening here, where tons of hundreds of millions of dollars are going out the door on the supply chain end of things, right, through a totally corrupt entities, global entities, and we're paying out the wazoo for money, okay, that's actually being bought for 100% less. All right, 112% they made in profit off this food laundering, money laundering situation with Alec Saab. Okay, and he's everywhere. He was picked up in Cape Verde, okay, on June 1st of 2020. And this was on a flight to Iran that he was on from Venezuela to Iran. And so Saab is picked up, Interpol picked him up, extradited to the USA for supposedly money laundering. And then he was extradited finally. He was kept in Cape Verde. They extradited him to the US just in October of 2021. Okay, so 2 years later, now he's let go, brought back to Venezuela, and we have to wonder. So it was on 8 counts of money laundering, $350 million in money laundered, all right, and falsifying documents to build public housing. And it gets on further where there was more public housing in the hundreds of millions of dollars in Venezuela, where they would pay, Alec Saab's company, Shatex, and others, hundreds of millions of dollars to build low-income housing that was worth like, a fifth of the money. And they just overpay it and launder the money to the Maduros et al. And all of these players. And so Maduro's stepsons have been hugely involved in this. This is the Hunter Bidens of Venezuela. And those stepsons are basically the little guys. They're actually called Los Chamos or Los Chamos. I don't know how you say it, but Los Chamos. And that was the name of a boy band in Venezuela. The little guys, they were called, they kind of were on the League of Menudo, way back in the 80s, but they're called the Los Chamos. The dudes, the bros, the little guys. And it's so funny when you hear the little guy and you think of the big guy, right, of Joe Biden. Maybe for entertainment purposes, they're interconnected there. Maybe there's some deals there with the Biden crime family. I don't know. But it's just interesting, all the same use of the terms in all of these different nations with all of these sons of all of these crime families that are gaining control of major player nation states. And so, okay, so going on from there, another thing that Alec Saab was involved in 2011, we had, as I mentioned before, the Global Construction Fund Corporation. This was out of Bogota, but they got, out of Colombia, they got the contract in Venezuela for $685 million, a contract for the prefab homes for the starving masses out of La Gran Mission Vivienda, or the Housing Commission. And it's so funny, when they got that $685 million contract with Venezuela, you had Hugo Chavez attending the signing of this contract, along with Juan Santos, others. Okay, all of these former presidents were there and attended the signing of the contract, because they knew they were getting, for entertainment purposes only, a massive payback from this. Okay, and this is Alec Saab, just released back to Venezuela, ties with his family being from Lebanon, Hezbollah being huge, the Venezuela massive migrant population. We're seeing on the border where whistleblowers are saying people who are involved in contracts where they are doing security for the busing coming across the borders and from bringing people way up into the United States from the agents of change, the invasion forces. They're basically saying tons and tons of these are Venezuelans, and they are very anti-U.S. And they're literally talking about on the buses as they travel what they're planning to do, what gangs are getting connected with, what they're planning to traffic, the drugs they're involved with, all of it. And so we have to wonder why a Lebanese money launderer was just given by the Biden, Blinken, Garland, DOJ, DHS to Venezuela, what they plan to unleash in this country, as they did with Victor Bout, and what just happened with Hamas, Israel, the massive trafficking of arms to make that happen, the massive amounts of the Houthi attacks, our military not being allowed to fight back. In the Reagan years, I think it was Operation, what was it? Wasn't Manta Ray Operation? I can't remember. But Reagan back, when we were getting attacked in the same manner went and leveled like half of the Iranian naval force. But what's happening now, while our ships and our supply chains are being blocked in the Red Sea and in the canal area, they are stopping anything but defense, shutting, blowing down these drones. They're not going on offense. And it's because of the planned destruction of our supply chain and the planned rollout of what is the attacks on the United States. And so I wanted to just bring that in with the sons of the crime families portions of my videos lately. It just seems to keep rolling out. And so I'll end that there. And I'll just round this up with Rand Paul does his yearly, Senator Rand Paul does his yearly roundup of what is the gross, disgusting overspending for ridiculous things out of our federal government with our taxpayer dollars. And he came up with $90 billion this year. I think that's really low. But it's everything. It's all the the diversity, inclusion, and equity, the woke stuff, the science experiments on awful things that they do to animals for, the Fauci sickos, the development of the bioweapons, all of it. And I'm going to try to link that below so you can read it for yourself. But ridiculous things, experiments on lobsters, creating Monkey Island so that they can infect us with more diseases, giving money to independent artists, basically to support their incomes. And they're not little at all. They're like wealthy rappers and hundreds of millions given to influencers to basically support the globalist and Biden crime family regime. I'll link it below. And so here we are, and that all sounds dismal, but it's just, what's great and what, that new Cybersecurity Futures 2030 wants to shut down is that the truth is so huge. We are so on top of it. Humanity is so awake. They can't stop it. Like, it's so huge. And as I've said before, the 100th monkey thing is happening where people's brains are just, they're in the new zone. They're in the God zone. They're in the awake zone. They're in the truth zone. And so they know they can't stop it. Their brainwashing isn't working. They have to use electronic interference in our brains. They have to use, their weapons of thought control, their entrainment in the devices, their attacks on us through the devices and the EMFs and the poison and the food and the water and all of it. I think Tyson, there's a new list out, I'll talk about it in my next video, of at least 10 of its subsidiaries all putting all the bug proteins into their foods. It's like your Philly steaks, just all of their pre-manufactured foods now have bug protein to get the chitin in you, to get the piezoelectrics component of the chitin into you. The chitin is full of parasites. They just grind up all those bugs, throw them in there. They partnered with ProTix out of the Netherlands. I've talked about this in earlier videos. Where they're just going full bore to try to kill our brain power, kill our soul power, our spirit power. But we just keep waking up more and more because God is with us. And in 2024, we're more awakened, more alive, more full of love and life and fellowship and total love of humanity, complete brotherhood and sisterhood with each other. They can't get us on race. They can't get us on class. They're trying every which way. And so we have to stick together. We have to be generous in how we treat each other. And of course, we have to organize, especially locally. Get out, be part of your local governments. Go and fight the foreign companies coming into your area and get the globalists out of your local government. We can do it. Precinctstrategy.com. There's so many ways to go. Check out the LindellPlan.com. Get involved for how we're going to win these 2024 elections. And of course, we're going to flood them. We're going to flood them with massive, huge, populist love of country, sovereignty, freedom, God, each other, humanity. Everybody wants to be free. And we are going to promote that in every single way because we're full of love. And that's what humanity really is. And the globalists, controlled by Satan, those poor, decrepit, just sucked out gray souls, their time is short. Their time is short, and we are here for the great eternity, the great ever after. So I'll leave it there, folks. We are free. We'll continue into 2024. I hope I'll see you before then. And I'll just let everybody again, check out. There's great deals going on right now at c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. I love this face serum. It's so great. You get all the different liquids to support different ways of taking C60, cleaning out the garbage, the inflammation, clearing up your brain, clearing out the inflammation in your body, but especially in your mitochondria, getting the crud out of your cells. And if you support the channel before the end of the month, you get entered into the C60 Evo giveaway on this channel, the YAFTV giveaway. I give away 2 bottles of this every year, and it's a great way to start your new year, supporting your health, getting ready for uber focus, uber body agility, and really just helping the body, because we're all under attack right now, and especially cleaning out the mitochondria. Cellular health is everything. And so check it out. Support the channel if you want 15% off. Get entered in the giveaway. Get a separate link, separate code sent to you immediately. You are free, folks. I am excited and jazzed about 2024. I really feel a massive upswing, of just huge infusion of God energy and support. And so I want to spread that to you. I thank you again for your prayers and your love and everything you do to keep this channel going. 2024 is going to be humanity's year. We are free, but we have to fight. Freedom isn't free. It is for us to grab with our free will given to us by God. So you are free, folks. I will see you next time. Happy New Year.